The council will come to order. All rise and salute the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing for a moment of silence in honor of our veterans, service members, and those who have given the ultimate sacrifice. We honor and acknowledge the Massachusetts, Pennacook, and Pawtucket peoples whose ancestral lands we now call home and on which we gather today. We express gratitude to the indigenous peoples who have cared for this land for generations, predating European colonization and continuing to the present. Moving forward, we are committed to ensuring that the histories, voices, and contributions of indigenous peoples are recognized and respected in the life of our city. Clerk, will you now call the roll?
Councilor Cologne Hayes. Here. Councilor Condon. Councilor Crowe. Here. Councilor Luong. Here. Councilor McDonald. Here. Councilor O'Malley. Here. Councilor Sika. Here. Councilor Simonelli. Councilor Taylor. Here. Councilor Winslow. Here. Council President Linehan.
Here. Under the provisions of open meeting law, for those of you in attendance, please be informed that UMA Urban Media Arts will be recording this evening's meeting. So just be aware there will be audio and video recordings of this meeting. Is there anyone else present tonight who is recording in addition to UMA? I know we do have language interpretation happening tonight. Thank you so much for being here. Okay, seeing no one else who's doing any recording, I'll go to our first order of business. Okay.
First order of business. Council will hold public hearings on National Grid petitions to install new poles and underground conduits. The first one is paper 284-26, petition Massachusetts Electric Company, DBA National Grid, and Verizon New England Incorporated, plan number 3-111-5123. National Grid to install one JO pole on Forest Street beginning at a point approximately 0 feet northwest of the center line of the intersection of Forest and Nevada Avenue and continuing approximately 28 feet in a northwest direction. National Grid is petitioning to install new pole P2501-84 approximately 38 feet northwest of an existing pole P2501, Malden, Mass. Hearing required.
Thank you for coming back. Nice to see you again.
You too.
Thank you. You have the floor.
Just open to any questions.
Okay. Hang on one second. Let me put on your light, Councilor Taylor.
Can you? Okay.
Yep.
Thank you so much. Thank you. So this one is located on Forest Street across from Nevada Ave, correct?
There's two of them, yes. One is Forest Street and Nevada, and the other one is Gordon Street and Flora. I think they're part of the same petition.
Yes, is that right, Madam Clerk? We have, it looks like,
Well, the
thought
Gordon
they were
Street one is paper 285. I have not read that into the record yet, so these are two different
They are
locations.
two
actually.
separate.
Yeah.
okay.
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 So it might have been the same proposal, but it's separated here
Okay.
just
Yep.
for the
Understood.
purposes. So I think for this one, we're currently looking at an easement for the cemetery. So the ones on Forest Street, because of the way the guy wires go, that would have to be included in that proposal, in that easement request as well, because the guy wires make it so it's not handicap accessible going down Forest Street. So that is what I have for my notes here, that was just an extending of the Forest Street work.
Yeah, and we requested the easements for all of those.
Yep, it hasn't gone, so this would just need to be pending that.
Yep.
Okay, so are you comfortable conducting the hearing on this one and moving forward pending that easement?
Yes.
Okay,
Yep.
so at this time I will declare the public hearing open. Anyone wishing to speak in favor of the petition, please come forward, state your name and address for the record. Anyone wishing to speak in favor, please come forward. Okay. And we don't have any emails regarding this one, correct? Okay. Hearing none and seeing none, I declare that portion of the hearing closed. Anyone wishing to speak in opposition to this petition, please come forward, state your name and address for the record. Anyone wishing to speak in opposition? Okay, hearing none and seeing none, I declare that portion of the hearing closed. Do we have a motion related to this petition?
Make a motion.
Okay, so the motion would be on Councilor Taylor's motion to grant, seconded by Councilor Luong, with the following conditions: that the engineer be called when dig safe's notified, that the streets and sidewalks be restored to the satisfaction of the Director of Public Works. All those in favor?
There are a few more,
Oh,
sorry.
did I miss something? And, sorry, and pending,
Pending the easement.
Your
and
easement.
for anything along the cemetery because of the work within, if there's funeral processions, we ask that you work with the cemetery superintendent to make sure that there isn't work going on during a,
Okay.
is that
Service.
clear? Is that an adequate? Okay. Apologies for missing that. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, we can move on to the next petition.
Paper 285-26, petition Massachusetts Electric Company, DBA National Grid and Verizon New England Incorporated, Plan Number 3, 111-5123, National Grid to install one JO pole on Floral Avenue, beginning at a point approximately 0 feet northeast of the center line of the intersection of Floral Ave and Gordon Street, and continuing approximately 20 feet in a northeast direction. National Grid is petitioning to install new pole P4799-84 and sidewalk guy wire fixture approximately 29 feet southeast off existing pole P4799 on Floral Avenue, Malden, Mass. Hearing required.
Okay, I'll go back to Councilor Taylor.
so we did have, some feedback about this from the neighborhood, and I think, Carol Ann, would you like to read that into record, or would you like me to?
I
Do you
have,
want to
should we
do
wait?
that during the hearing?
during the
Okay.
opposition
Okay.
portion of the hearing, I have it ready to go.
Okay, great.
Okay. So I would just say, to take that into consideration, what the neighborhood is asking for. And I believe this one is to help keep up the pole across
Yeah,
the
because
street.
it's
Is
leaning,
that-
so right now it's leaning towards Gordon Street, and we're adding a new pole to help bring it back straight.
Can I ask, are there plans to fix a lot of the existing poles that are completely deteriorating? Because there are several, and there's one that,
We have hundreds, if not thousands of poles just in Malden that we have designs for to fix, replace them or guy them.
is there a way to get a plan? Because a lot of these are safety issues, and there are some that are a little bit more pressing than this, that just, they have chunks missing, they're leaning. I have multiple constituents from not just that area. One is by a school that is in significant disrepair that I've been asking for a while. So I'd just like to see maybe some sort of plan as to what we are going to do going
Yeah,
forward.
if you have my email, if you email me the pole numbers, I can send you back.
I'll email them
if we have-
again. Yeah, I've emailed them a few times, so I will
Okay.
definitely email them.
I'm the engineer from Malden, so anything that goes on Malden, I'll take care of it.
Okay, great.
Okay, any other questions before we do the hearing on this petition? Oh, sure, Councilor Crowe, let me put your light on. Ooh, hang on, let me turn someone else off.
So just as you answered Councilor Taylor about the poll numbers, can you figure out a list of the hundreds or thousands that you're looking at in Malden?
Hundreds of thousands, but hundreds.
Hundreds
to a
or
thousand.
thousands, whatever, that's what he meant, hundreds or thousands. If you have a list, the ones you have.
I don't have the list, no. I'm not the only designer that's working on them, so I wouldn't have all the lists. So if you just
Can you
email
get the
me what-
list?
If you just email me what poll numbers you're looking at and what street they're on, I can take a look at it and see if we have something in the work for it.
Okay.
Yeah, that would be good to know. Can we email a street number or a street name if we don't have the poll numbers, and could you provide that, or do you really need the poll numbers as well?
If you have
Better to have-
two crossing streets, I can go out there and take a look what pole it
Okay,
is.
that's great to know. Any other questions before we move into the hearing portion? Okay, at this time, I'll declare the public hearing open. Anyone wishing to speak in favor of the petition, please come forward, state your name and address for the record. Anyone wishing to speak in favor? Okay, hearing none and seeing none, I declare that portion of the hearing closed. Anyone wishing to speak in opposition to this petition? This is 88 Floral Avenue. Please come forward, state your name and address for the record. Anyone wishing to speak in opposition? Okay. We do have one email to read, is that correct?
Yes, I am writing regarding National Grid's petition to install a new JO pole P4799-84 on Floral Avenue. Most of the utility poles on Floral Avenue are located on the odd-numbered side of the street. Given the existing pole configuration, I question whether it is necessary to install an additional pole directly across the street from an existing pole. From a visual standpoint, the proposed placement would be unattractive and could negatively affect the appearance of the neighborhood. Additionally, there are no new homes or developments in the area that appear to require this new infrastructure. If the purpose of the proposed pole is to provide support for pole P4799, I would suggest that National Grid instead repair or replace the existing pole, which appears to be deteriorating due to rot, rather than installing an entirely new pole. Thank you for considering my comments. Sincerely, Maria D'Esposito, 81 Floral Avenue.
Okay, thank you, Madam Clerk. One last call for anyone wishing to speak in opposition.
Do you want me to speak on that, or?
That would be fine, sure.
Okay, so regarding her question about replacing the pole is being replaced for pole 4799. We're replacing it to a class 2 pole, but in the future, it's gonna do the same thing and lean towards Gordon Street again. So that's the reason we're adding a pole for guiding purposes.
Do you have a question or comment on
Yeah,
that,
I guess,
Councilor Taylor?
so I was under the impression that the pole wasn't being replaced, it was just being supported. So is the pole also being
Yes.
replaced?
Yes, but we don't include that on the petition since we don't need to petition for a replacement of a pole. Since it's an existing pole, we don't have to petition for a replacement.
Okay.
That's why it wouldn't be on the petition.
So then I guess I'm just concerned, or my question is, so then when we ask for pole replacements, why are we told, oh, why are we waiting so long when there's safety hazards? When there's things that, again, we have a pole that is in complete disrepair where children walk to school. If we don't need a petition to do that, why can't it
So
just
if
be
the pole is
replaced?
being placed within 4 feet of the existing pole, we don't have to petition, but if it's further than 4 feet, we have to petition for it again. So I'm not sure what poles you're talking about again, but
Okay.
I'd like to take a look if you provide me the numbers or the street.
I think maybe for this one, just to get a little bit more information of other options that we have and what, because if we can just replace
I mean, we can replace it, but
the pole
let's
without
say in the
adding
future
another
it leans
one.
again, do you want me to come back and petition for a new pole, or?
Are you thinking of tabling it?
I'm
or-
thinking of tabling just pending more information so we can go out there and get more information from
Okay,
you.
Maria, did you want to speak to this? We do have a resident, looks like, waiting to speak on it, so let's take the comment for the hearing before I close the hearing.
So the pole 4799 is currently.
Can you state your name and address? Sorry.
Maria D'Esposito, 81 Floral Ave.
Thank you.
Pole 4799 is currently only feeding one house across the street. So I don't understand why we need a whole pole there. And the pole that's been there I've been in the house for over 30 years, and that pole was there before I even got there. So saying that you can't replace it with a new one because it's going to deteriorate and go again, you're talking 40, 50 years down the road. There's no need to put a pole to hold up one pole and feed one house. So that's my opinion. And my neighbors and I were talking, and we're all kind of like, we don't understand why that's happening. There's no poles on that side, and it just leaves you a nice open sky right now. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I see a light from Councilor Winslow.
Yeah, and I know, Zane, we have something similar happening on Granite Street, and one of the things I asked about is, and I know if people recall when we were doing the cell phone towers, we actually had reports on the engineering, this is, the static engineering exercise of what wires pulling where, and, so it's a calculation that engineers make to determine whether that guide wire is necessary. So is that something you could bring back if we table this to
So
show what the
If you're
need for
talking
that?
about pole analysis, we've never done pole analysis. National Grid has never done. I know
Okay.
Telecom has done pole analysis, but we don't do it.
So, but in this instance, I mean, that's really what the question is, what is driving the need for the guide wire? I mean, you're making the assumption You guys don't actually calculate whether the pole's gonna
We
carry?
calculate them internally, but we don't provide it externally.
So, well, I mean, we can make those conditions if we need to, so.
Yeah.
We did that with aerial stuff, so it isn't unprecedented that we're asking for that calculation, so I don't understand why you can't present, when there's this issue in the neighborhood, why you can't present those calculations that, other people gave willingly, and they're stamped by engineers and everything like that, so I don't get, I don't get why we can't get that information to really establish why, what the needs are. Thank you, Craig.
So I'm going to do one last call, because I actually never closed the hearing, so I'm going to do one last call for opposition comments. Going once, going twice, declare the hearing closed. And now we can be free to take up motions.
I would like to make a motion to table it pending further investigation as to what we can do.
Second.
Okay, on a motion by Councilor Taylor to table, seconded by Councilor Winslow?
Yeah.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, that petition is tabled. Next order of business?
Paper 286-26 petition, Massachusetts Electric Company, DBA National Grid Plan Number 31295951, National Grid to install underground facilities on Salem Street. National Grid to install handhold 223 in front of 300 Salem Street. Trench and install one 3-inch concrete encased conduit from MH 223 to handhold approximately 110 feet on the public right-of-way. Hearing required.
Is this also your section of Salem Street?
It
Lucky you. Councilor Taylor.
So this one, I believe, is a private customer that is requesting this.
Yes.
Am I understanding that correct? And it is underground, and the street will be repaired
It's gonna be on the
afterward?
sidewalk, and the sidewalk will be
sidewalk.
repaired. Yep.
Yeah, so this, I have no objection here.
Okay, any other questions before we open the hearing? Are you able to say what the purpose of the private request is for?
It's to serve 300 Salem Street.
Just to serve the one residence?
Yes.
Okay. All right, at this time, I will declare the public hearing open. Anyone wishing to speak in favor of this petition, please come forward, state your name and address for the record. Anyone wishing to speak in favor? Okay, hearing none, seeing none, I declare that portion of the hearing closed. Anyone wishing to speak in opposition to this petition, 300 Salem Street? Anyone wishing to speak in opposition? Okay, seeing none, hearing none, I'll declare that portion of the hearing closed. We don't have any emails, okay. Do we have a motion regarding this
I have
petition?
one more request.
Of course.
That if there are any trees along the sidewalk, those also get replaced.
Okay.
I didn't look at
Add
it.
condition regarding trees?
Yep,
Okay.
thank you.
Okay, so is that a motion to grant with that
Yes,
additional
thank you.
condition? Oh, yes, sorry, Councilor O'Malley. Go right ahead.
Is the property currently served with electricity, or is it just upgrading the service, or?
They're currently served, but they're upgrading the service, and their service is not up to standards. So we're replacing their entire service.
Oh, and is it currently fed by like an overhead wire?
No, it's currently fed from the same manhole.
Okay. But you're not just running a new line, you have to.
We're running new conduit, yep.
Okay.
The conduit is very old, deteriorating, it's not. up to
Oh,
our
and you need the
standards.
handhold to make the 90-degree turn?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councilor O'Malley. Did we have a second to that? Okay, motion by Councilor Taylor, seconded by Councilor Cologne Hayes. With the following conditions: that the engineer be called when DigSafe is notified, that the streets and sidewalks be restored to the satisfaction of the Director of Public Works, and with the additional condition regarding trees?
Yeah, I would say, not that I like to put more work on people, but consult the tree warden and
That the
make
tree
sure
warden
that
is consulted?
if there is a tree.
Okay, understood.
I don't have it in front of me.
Okay. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, that petition is granted. Next order of business.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming again, appreciate it.
Council will hold a public hearing for the purpose of receiving public comment regarding the proposed fiscal year 2027 budget. Paper 233-26, order, the mayor will submit the fiscal year 2027 annual appropriation orders for the general fund.
Okay, and before I open the hearing, I do just want to remind folks, so at a public hearing, there is no time limit. We just ask that you come to the podium, everyone take a turn coming to the podium to address us, state your name and address, or you can just state the street that you live on under our new rules. You are only to be speaking on the budget, but you do not have a time limit on what you can address us on tonight. We do have interpreters interpreting tonight. So I would ask that folks, if you can, take the time to speak slow so that our interpreters have a chance to keep up with those who are listening on the devices in the audience. And I'll give the floor to Councilor McDonald in a moment if there's anything that you do want to say about the budget before we get started. But just as a reminder, this is for us to listen to you and hear your feedback on the proposed budget. We are not going to vote on the budget tonight. That's going to happen next week. So tonight is all about listening and hearing from the public. The last thing I'll say is that the council does not engage in debate or answer questions in this forum tonight, and we also don't take questions from our teams or our online audience. So the only questions that are going to come in tonight is going to be from in the chamber. Do folks feel like I missed anything that would be helpful to say before we get started? Okay, I'm going to give Councilor McDonald just a few moments before I open the hearing. Councilor McDonald, you have the floor.
Thank you all. I'm Councilor Carrie McDonald, and I'm the chair of the Finance Committee. And so we have breakout committee meetings, which we've been doing for the past month to discuss the budget. And I have to say that every year we hold a public hearing on the budget, and it's required in our council rules, but it is also a really good thing to do because it's one of the most important decisions we make as the city council about approving the budget. And I've never had such a great turnout at a finance committee, or rather a budget public hearing. And so I'm really glad to see so much engagement in the chamber. Did folks write in as well? Do we have?
Yes.
We also have emails and things like that. So I'm really glad to see this kind of public engagement. I just wanted to say a word about the budget process up until this point. Under state law, the mayor is the one who has to propose spending and the budget. And the budget is then sent to the city council for review and approval. So we have spent the last month in the Finance Committee meeting with every city department to talk about the changes that are being proposed in their budget and what the impact might be and what they can do to help the overall budget situation. And we've had great conversations with each of our department heads about those things. The context, as I think we all know, is that we have a budget gap this year. The city had proposed a tax increase override that was not passed by the voters here, and as a result, have a budget proposed by our mayor that does reduce positions by over 30 positions, I believe, across nearly every city department, with a clear exception of our schools, where the state requires us to continue to invest at higher levels, and investing in our schools is also good. So we are wrestling with the question of how to balance the budget and how to deal with the cuts that the mayor has proposed. I want to reiterate what Council President Linehan has said, which is that we have not voted in the Finance Committee. We will vote in the committee next week, likely prior to the full council being able to vote on the budget as proposed by the mayor. So this is the time that we deliberately do this hearing prior to any votes so that we can make sure to include this public input. So I think that we've had great discussion so far and look forward to hearing what you all have to offer on this proposal for how to make the best of a rough financial situation and continue to serve our residents as best we can.
Thank you so much. The only other thing that I would add for anybody watching at home or for anybody who is going to be watching the recording of this meeting over the next week. The full budget is available on the city's website, cityofmalden.org. It's front and center when you get to that homepage. It's very easy and interactive to page through, so if you're following along, listening to the comments that we get tonight and you want to go look at that and then send an email to any or all of the counselors for us to consider, I will say that's something I'm definitely willing to take emails from the community, and I bet all of us up here are, as we mull over what we hear tonight and get ready to take our final vote next week. So with that, I think I will get started. At this time, I will declare the public hearing open. Anyone wishing to speak in favor of the budget, please come forward, or of the petition, please come forward, state your name and address. And again, you can just say what street you live on. Come to the podium and state your name and street for the record. We have a brave first taker.
My name is Edwin Lucy at 116 Daniel Street, and I'm not sure if I'm speaking out of turn, but I did have an idea that it might be of little help to the city in terms of what you're trying to accomplish, which is a challenge and a half, both for the administration and, of course, for the people here, for the city council, as well as the people in the school committee. But I happened to be in City Hall the other day, and I was surprised when I asked the question, how many bills go out every month for the water bill? And I was told there was 11,000 bills go out every month for the water bill. Well, that surprised me because I wasn't aware of it was that many. And if you do the math, even with metered mail, and you multiply the cost of a letter that goes out with the bill, which is 79 cents, that's over $8,000 a month times 12 months. That's over $100,000 is spent sending out water bills. I made some inquiries in some neighborhood communities, and I spoke to people in Revere, Everett, Medford, Melrose, Stoneham, and Wakefield. There were 6 communities. 5 of the 6 communities send out quarterly bills for the water. We used to do that years ago, and at one point, for the convenience of the public, they extended it here in the city of Malden for 12 months. They also do that in Everett. And Malden has one advantage over Everett, which I'll touch on in a little while. But if we were sending out bills just 4 times a year, like the tax bills for the real estate, if you do the math for over $8,000 a month for the stamps on the bills that go out, and you were sending 8 months that you weren't sending them, and 4 months you were, that's about $70,000 the city would spend less sending out the bills. I haven't even got to the cost of the envelopes, or the inserts in the envelope, or the envelopes that's in the envelopes, because that's all part of the bills. The reason I mentioned about Everett being somewhat different is I talked to someone from Malden recently, and he mentioned to me that when he receives a water bill, he doesn't even bother with it. He takes it, opens it up, and throws it in the wastebasket. He will shred it so somebody can't find out how much water bill is going to be. In other words, we're not looking to advertise his bill. But he goes online, as a lot of people do today, whether they're in Malden, and that's particularly among the younger people. So all he does every month when the bill would normally come to him, he goes online, finds out the amount of the water bills, has the city pay his out of his checking account, just like you do on a credit card. So if he never got a water bill, it wouldn't bother him, it wouldn't be a problem. And I think there's a lot of people in that situation. They don't need the bill to remind them that they have to pay it. And now, the idea is that if you did that, just send 4 bills a year, and you had a lot of people that would still not bother opening the bills because they would then in turn do the same thing this man told me he does, which is that he just would know the bill was due and he would go on online and pay his bill. So either way, there's in this day and age, when you're dealing with millions and millions of dollars in different departments, a significant amount of money isn't $70,000. But if you add it all up, you're also sending out, because it's two envelopes in each bill, about 250,000 envelopes. And there is some cost to envelopes, even if they're not that expensive, and you buy in bulk. And the other thing, which I'm not aware of, but I'm assuming a lot of those envelopes that are put together to send the bills out every month, which is a lot of staff hours, that they're done manually. Because you'd have to think about it. You put one envelope, and then you put a bill in an envelope, and then you put another envelope in that so you could return it. And that would mean that in some ways now, when you're dealing with issues of personnel, there were probably going to be some instances now where, the people that were not going to have a job after July 1st, they may be some of the personnel that are helping doing all these bills, and therefore, if you didn't have the bills to go out, that would mean they could be doing jobs that would result in better performances and quicker services for the people of Malden. So the thing that it just seems to me is that in some fashion that the city could maybe consider going back to the 4 times a year instead of the 12 times, and they can work it out so that to ensure that you are going to inconvenience some people, because people maybe don't always pay the bill on time. So if they get a quarterly bill instead of a monthly bill, that means the bill is that much higher that they're behind. But I think the most people in the community would be paying them as due, and if they didn't want any bill at all, as this gentleman said, he could just tell the city, don't send me a bill, I'll send you the money every quarter, and then take it from there. And the other thing is, I mentioned comparing Everett and Malden. Malden is set up with the computer system, which Everett is not. In other words, in Everett, if you wanted to pay the bill the same way as I just mentioned, this is being done by this other person. Everett isn't set up for that, but Malden is. So therefore, it would be a convenience for the public that would currently doing it. It would certainly be an advantage to the community personnel who will have less time to spend doing menial kinds of things. And most important, there's a savings there without really doing anything other than changing the system and getting people to used to a new system, which is just a less frequent bill. One caveat that would be important, though, is to ensure that if you're sending out, and the city agrees to do it in some fashion, that if people might not knowingly have a leak, you don't want them to wait 3 months to find out when they get the bill that the leak is resulting in a bill of $1,000 instead of $100 or whatever. So you'd have to have a monitoring system, and they used to have that. I recall years ago, and I don't want to keep dwelling on the past because things weren't always good either then, but that the department was able to flag attention when bills were excessive in terms of water bill, and therefore sometimes it might be just that people watering the lawns, or in the warm weather the bill would be higher than normal and would be standing out the amount being paid. But in any event, that's an idea I thought maybe the city could consider without imposing on anybody within the community. I think overall, and what would be worthwhile is that may save some person's job, or maybe take care of a shortfall in a portion of the budget that's currently an issue. So again, on that, I appreciate you listening to me. If anybody had any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer if I know it.
Thank you, we appreciate it.
All right. One other thing is an afterthought, and it's separate from water bills, is I was reminded tonight, there's a state mandate program which is to require communities to advise people they have an option when they want to vote. They can do it by mail. And the state being a typical state level business, they've said, let's do this, and oh, by the way, the community is going to have to pay some of that cost. And I think if you look at not only just in Malden, but in generally, I think there was a 15% turnout it's in the last election at the local level, so that it's obviously at the state level, when voting, there'll be a bigger percentage. The national election, it's even bigger. But with Bill Galvin being on television reminding people about the options to vote by mail or by absentee, and people get those mailings and they don't really take advantage of them. And it seems to me that's a lot of money being spent. So maybe we can think about asking our state legislators to sponsor a bill to have the state fully fund the cost of the absentee ballots and over-the-counter voting, and that way that's one less expense that you'd have, that it would also serve the purpose of getting in as many people to vote, which seems that they don't vote. So rather than waste the money, and then if it's going to be spent, let the state spend it instead of the community. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor? Okay, going once. Seeing none and hearing none, I will close that portion of the hearing. Do we have any emails in favor? Okay. At this time, I will open the second section of our hearing. Anyone wishing to speak in opposition to the budget, to the petition? Anybody wishing to speak in opposition, please feel free to come to the podium and state your name and address.
I叫唐英，住喺120 Mountain Avenue。
Hi everyone, my name is Tong Ying and I live at 120 Mountain Avenue.
我喺摩頓已經生活咗10幾年啦，我能夠稱呢個摩頓咧係為我嘅家，感到好自豪。我喜歡呢度嘅各種文化同埋豐富嘅生活。我去老人中心上課，同朋友一齊唱歌跳舞。我熱愛摩頓，因為我感受到呢度嘅地方政府咧係真正肯聽我哋嘅居民嘅需求嘅。
I have lived in Malden over 10 years and I'm proud to call Malden my home. I love the diverse culture and all the things to do in Malden. I go to the senior center to take classes, to sing and dance with my friends. And I love Malden because I feel that our local government listens and cares about what residents need.
今年年初，當我同埋鄰居們知道呢個市政府面臨呢個財政缺口，並提出稅收選舉時呢，我哋希望呢能保留我哋嘅城市服務，嗰啲支持長者、學生同埋全市居民嘅活動同埋項目，所以我哋投咗呢個贊成票。但係選舉結果之後呢，表決未能通過，我哋感到好失望。 當我哋進一步得知呢個市政府計劃削減呢個語言翻譯調解員，並縮減雙語選舉工作人員嘅工作時間時呢，我哋更加失望。
Earlier this year, when my neighbors and I heard about the city's budget gap and the override attempt, we wanted to keep our city services, the activities and events that support seniors, students, and residents across the city. So we voted yes. As the results came in, we were disappointed to hear that the attempt failed, but then we were further saddened to hear that the city plans to cut the language access coordinator's position and reduce bilingual city clerk staff hours.
語言調解員同埋雙語市政職員呢，係亞裔居民喺與城市之間同政府之間不可缺少嘅橋梁。雙語市府職員呢，每年喺選舉前呢，都會嚟到我哋嘅樓，與我哋坐喺一齊，為我哋講解點樣投票。語言翻譯調解員呢，確保市政府市政廳提供翻譯服務。無論我哋講咩語言，都能得到重要嘅有關嘅資訊。移民居民係摩頓呢個城市中嘅重要一份子。如果沒有呢個橋梁呢，我哋將與城市同埋政府脫節，我哋嘅聲音同需求呢，就無法被聽到啦。
The language access coordinator and bilingual staff, they are a vital bridge between Asian residents and the city. The bilingual city clerk staff comes to our building every year before elections to do outreach, to sit with us, and to explain how to vote. The Language Access Coordinator makes sure that there's interpretation and translation across City Hall. That important information reaches every resident of Malden, no matter what language they speak. Immigrant residents are part of the fabric of what makes Malden a great city. Without this bridge, we would be cut off. Our voices and our needs would not be heard.
我哋希望市政府恢復對呢啲職位嘅資金嘅支持，建設一個真正包容所有人嘅Malden。呢項工作咧先啱啱開始，我哋咧應該前進，唔好後退。我嘅發言講完啦 ，thank you。
We urge the city to restore funding for these positions. The work of building a truly inclusive Malden has only just begun, and we cannot afford to go backwards now. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi， 大家好，我叫李麗英，我住喺10 Quincy Street Malden。
Hi, everyone. My name is Lying Lee, and I live at 10 Quincy Street.
好似馬州好多城鎮咁樣，Malden都面臨着財政預算嘅壓力。我都好感激到我哋嘅城市一直以嚟咁努力保護基本服務。喺呢個時候，為咗當稅收增壓呢個表決未能通過嘅時候，市政府不得不削減個開支。我哋感到非常遺憾。
Like many cities and towns across Massachusetts, Malden is facing real budget pressures. I'm grateful that our city has worked hard to protect essential services, which is why it felt really unfortunate that the override didn't pass, and the city now needs to make cuts to make ends meet.
我喺Malden已經生活咗8年，作為一個移民，喺語言服務。對於我嚟講係一項好重要嘅福利，佢係我哋參與呢座城市嘅生活嘅方式。語言係對我哋能夠睇到我哋嘅水電費單啊，辦理房屋房產評估有關嘅事務，選擇選舉嘅信息，呢啲服務決定咗我哋感到被包容，仲係被邊緣。
I have lived in Malden for 8 years. As an immigrant to the U.S., language access isn't just a service. It is how I participate in the city, to understand my water bill, navigate the assessor's office, and access elections information. These services make the difference between feeling included and invisible.
Malden 喺呢方面取得咗好大嘅進步。喺3年前，Malden 成為麻州第2個提供完全雙語選票嘅城市，呢個係多年嚟市政府同埋社區共同努力先至實現嘅里程碑性嘅成就。正因為如此，每一次我哋去投票，都有雙語嘅工作人員協助我哋，所有嘅標誌都要中文翻譯，選舉工作嘅人員都嚟到我哋嘅社區服務。教我哋點樣去投票，呢一切都唔係突然間嚟嘅，而係嚟自各方面繼續努力嘅承諾，嚟自市政府同埋嚟自社區各個團體、議員、協調員同埋雙語選舉工作人員嘅辛勤付出。
And Malden has made tremendous progress. 3 years ago, the city became the second in Massachusetts to provide fully bilingual ballots, a landmark achievement through years of city and community advocacy. Because of that, every time I go to the polls, there's a bilingual worker there to help me. The signs are translated. Election staff come to our community events to walk us through how to vote. This didn't happen by accident. It happens because of sustained commitment from the city, community groups, and City Hall staff like the Language Access Coordinator and bilingual staff at the clerk's office.
Malden 呢，超過有20% 嘅居民都係嚟自亞裔。喺呢項工作對於呢個不斷壯大嘅社區係至關重要。我哋為Malden 共同取得嘅成就感到驕傲，讓每一位居民用每一種語言都能夠融入呢度城市，呢個就係我哋摩頓市嘅價值觀嘅體現。我哋深知道呢個決定並不容易，又係對市政府對我哋嘅社區所取得嘅一切心存感激。我哋希望市政府能夠揾到辦法保護呢啲職位，為呢一份進步屬於我哋所有人。我哋希望攜手繼續向前。多謝大家。
With over 20% of Malden residents being Asian, this work is crucial for the growing community here. We are so proud of what Malden has built together. The work of including all residents in every language is a reflection of our city's values. We know these are difficult decisions, and we are grateful for everything the city has done to support our community. We hope the city will find a way to protect these positions because the progress belongs to all of us, and we want to keep moving forward together. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Annabelle Shu. I have lived and worked in Malden for the past 3 years, and I live on Summer Street.
Thank you.
So I work with Asian American youth based in Malden and the surrounding areas, and I help them build a sense of empowerment, agency, and political consciousness. The youths have all handwritten their own responses to the change with the language access coordinator, and I've passed those on to the city clerk, who will be reading them out later. As a representative of the GMAC youth, we deeply oppose the cutting of the language access coordinator position. The first feeling we had upon hearing this news was shock, because it seems like a joke that such a crucial and deeply necessary position can just be cut, can be treated as a privilege rather than a necessary service for so many in our community in Malden. We know as well, we have personally worked with the language access coordinator, as many probably have in this room. It's a deeply essential position, and it's overloaded as well. It's like the work of, it touches every single city service, and it works for the most vulnerable among the people of Malden. Cutting this position feels very short-sighted. It doesn't only affect our elders and our older generations, it also affects the youth of Malden. 60% of the high school has used ESL services in some way. It's something that touches every socioeconomic status. Every group has someone maybe who will need these services. And it really fails the very communities that we pride ourselves on nurturing and sustaining, and will result in greater inequities across Malden. I think talking about supporting immigrant communities is cheap, and we really need action to show that and to continue the great work as well that the City Council and other people in the city have done so far. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, everybody. How are you?
Good evening.
我的名字叫 Lily， 是在557 Pleasant 区。我住在摩登已经28年了。
Hi, my name is Lily, and Chinese name Guo Li Li, and I live at 557 Pleasant Street. I've lived in Malden for 28 years.
当我刚从中国来到美国的时候，我第一个选择就是来到波士顿摩登，因为我的兄弟姐妹都在芝加哥、三藩市，但是我没有去那里，就是第一个选择就是来这里，我喜欢来这里。
When I first came to the U.S. from China, I first landed in Greater Boston, lived in Boston, and now I've landed in Malden. All of my family members, they live in Chicago, San Francisco, but I decided not to move with them because I fallen in love with this city. I love Malden.
因为我的家人也一起来这里。因为我来美国的时候，我的儿子是18岁，去另外一个社区，没有那个高中读了，就是来到摩登，还有那个海西孤独，即是读高中。感谢。
I've worked in Malden, and then my son, who is, before he was 18, he was in high school. And when we moved to Malden, you know, he was enrolled in schools here, and he also really liked the community here.
后来我的儿子长大了，他就有意思去买房，我就跟我商量一下买去哪里，我告诉儿子，就是买摩登吧，摩登很好的地区，
Yeah, as my son's grown up, and he's an adult now, thinking about buying a home, buying his first home. And I was like, don't buy elsewhere in other cities, buy in Malden. This is where our roots are, our community is here. We love Malden, so buy here.
这个城市很好，这个市区，这个市长也非常有领导方法。他的团队对摩登的居民很关心，就是我在摩登在喜大上做工22年以前，现在我已经退休10年了。
The community here is really great. What we really love is the government, the city council leadership, the mayor's leadership. We love this community because it's great, and lots of things are, you know, people really care about the community and the residents here. You listen to our voices, you listen to our needs. And this is why I've lived here for so long. I used to work at Stop and Shop in Malden for 22 years, and this is why I settled here.
我每天都很感谢这个社区，感觉我们这个城市对我们老人的居民很关爱。
I've been retired for 4 years. Every day I'm grateful for this community and what the city has done for us and the care that you've shown the senior residents here.
以前我是租屋者，但是我退休之后，通过这个摩登这个福利，我退休之后就住在55区老人公寓。我们生活很安定。
Yeah, I used to rent in Malden, but a while ago I was able to get government subsidies and benefits, and I got approved to move into 557 Pleasant Street, and this is when my life has finally become more steady.
在每年选举那个时候，市政府就派那个工作人员来到我们的楼下，来到我们的办公室活动室里边，他们的工作人员很关爱，很热心，帮助我们，坐在我们的身边，帮我们指导我们填表怎么样选举。
And thank you for listening to my story. And the reason why I'm here today is because, you know, it's important for me that we're able to have a voice and be able to share, you know, what our needs are in this community. And, you know, one of the things that I really care about is election and voting. It's one of the ways that we can get our voices heard. So every year during elections, I always vote. And the city clerk's office, the election department always, you know, have really nice staff that come to our building, talk to us, walk us through guide us through the voting process and how to fill out the ballot if we decide to vote by mail.
对于我们之下不会说英语的人来说，这不是一件小事情。正是因为有了他们这么关爱，这么帮助我们，我们才能够尽到公民的责任。没有这些帮助，我们就无法参与，我们就会被排除在外边。
And for those of us who don't speak English or read and write in English, voting is not a small task. And it is because that the city has staff members, a bilingual team, a language access coordinator that come to work with us and help us through the process. This is how we could get it done. And this is how I could participate civically and fulfill my responsibility as a citizen, as a resident here. And without that bridge, that language access, we won't be able to be heard and seen.
这就是为什么语言协作员和双语工作人员对我们如此的重要。正是因为有了他们，我们才能真正成为这个城市的一份子。请保留他们的职位。
This is why the language access coordinator, bilingual staff members at the city hall matter so much to us. It's why we feel that we're part of the city. So please protect these positions.
我今天来还有2件事，我就是住在557居民的拜托我来反映2件事。我们的楼后边靠近的公园，每天呢早上啊，中午啊，晚上啊，都好多人过去公园里边神韵啊、散步啊、锻炼啊这样。但是后边的过马路的安全灯呢就坏了，现在恳请市政府重视一点，尽快修复。还有557前边的大马路，还有一个井盖，可能是螺丝松了。每次那个车辆在经过的压到那个井盖了，他就康康这样响，提醒的，就是影响557的居民安睡，就是这样。希望市政府重视这2件事，尽快修复。谢谢大家。
I have 2 more issues that I wanted to tag along since I have an interpreter here today. The other 557 Pleasant Street residents asked me to make sure to bring those 2 issues up. The first is a traffic light at the crosswalk right behind our building. Lots of residents, senior residents use that crosswalk every morning for exercise, go on walks and things like that. So the traffic light has been broken, so please help us address that. And then also there's a loose manhole over the street in front. And every time, like at night when the cars and trucks pass by, it makes like the kunk sound. It's really noisy. So please help us fix that, please. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
We're on it already.
Good evening, councilors. My name is Mina Kim. I'm with the Greater Malden Asian American Community Coalition, GMAC, 381 Pearl Street. Do you need my home address? No. Okay. So I think this meeting is actually a really great illustration of why language access is so essential. You would not have understood the stories and experiences of some of your constituents, and they also would not have had the opportunity to share their experiences in their own words and voice. And so as some of the folks who spoke before me said, visibility is so important to being a part of community and building that. So thanks for this opportunity for sharing our comments. I know that you're already aware of this information, but over 70 languages are spoken in the Malden public school system. More than 28% of Malden's residents identify as AAPI, with the majority speaking Mandarin and Cantonese, and we also have many neighbors who also speak Portuguese, Haitian Creole, Spanish, and many other languages. This diversity is what I hear of so often when people talk about what makes Malden special. And I feel like this diversity also brings something more powerful with it, which is a sense of belonging, which is also another word that I hear very often spoken at different events. But belonging doesn't happen on its own. It depends on infrastructure to support it, built over many years by people who have come together to organize and advocate, to open up city conversations, to participate in civic processes, in decision-making, and the creative life of this community. And in Malden, belonging has been shaped by years of advocacy that started way before my tenure at GMAC. And it has led to very great successes, including the passing of the transliteration bill, which enhanced voting rights for Chinese-speaking residents in the city, the work of Elena Martinez as the language access coordinator. She has taken language access beyond translation to build relationships within and across many non-English speaking communities, establishing civic infrastructure to facilitate civic engagement between residents and City Hall. As part of an AAPI coalition with the Asian Community Development Corporation, the Chinese Progressive Association, and the Asian Outreach Center at the Greater Boston Legal Services, we have worked with the city clerk and the mayor's office to ensure language access isn't a nice to have, but a critical piece of sustaining belonging in Malden. We have greatly appreciated the City of Malden's partnership and commitment to language access over the years, and urge this council to continue investing in the infrastructure of belonging that makes Malden the exceptional place that it is. And just as a final comment, we did try AI as a possible translation tool, and it really did not work.
Wow.
And so I hope that is not being considered as a viable option. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition at this time? Sure, please come forward.
各位大家好，我係黃亞明啊。
Hi everyone, good evening. My name is De Rong Huang.
安尼我都從2020年就來到美國摩頓住到而家啦。我感覺呢摩頓又混沌，環境又好，所以住落嚟呢，我哋仔都冇搬過去。
I came to the US in 2020 and I lived in Malden ever since. I found that Malden as a neighborhood feels safe, it has a great environment, the people are nice.
我感覺啊，摩頓啊，要國會議員要時將啊，把摩頓交下佢好呢，我就我佢只好去先啊。安尼還有一個問題呢，佢哋咧香港咧就話財政有壓力啊，我希望呢摩頓市能夠保留。 有一位能夠向為啲老人家靠向啊，因為老人家呢乜都唔識啊，譬如話家上面入車住啲人本冇機會鬼識嘅啊，所以呢有一部汽車入邊呢有一個惡行起，就唔會買私房油，能夠明白到呢乜得更多啊，我所講係講。 我認為我哋國會議員，我哋時將啊，以後更加搞好摩頓係講。
So what also makes Malden really great is that we have really great representatives from the federal government, state government. We also have a really good mayor that really care and listen to the community. And I understand right now that Malden has to face really difficult decisions with the budget. And this is really unfortunate and we all don't want to see that. But one thing that I really do want to bring up is like our concern from a lot of seniors. As a senior resident, there are a lot of things that I don't know. Just like when you guys were speaking up here, we were having issues with the translation equipment once the audio was on, so the equipment wasn't working. So he was saying that I didn't know what was going on. And so, you know, in language access is how we can communicate with you and talk to you about what we really want to see in the city and what can make this city really great. It's kind of like a car. If you want to drive a road, you have a car of passengers, you want to move forward, you need a GPS, right? To kind of connect us and, you know, show us where the road to go and why and give us that information. So, you know, language access is like that GPS for us, for the whole city and, you know, the whole car ride to work and for the whole city to work for all of us. So thank you so much for all of your support, for listening to us today. Thank you, city councilors. Thank you, mayor. And we really want to work together to make this city a really great and inclusive city for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you. Last call for anybody wishing to speak in opposition.
Hello, everyone. Ryan O'Malley. I'm the Ward 4 City Councilor. I'm also a resident of the community. I rise not necessarily to speak in opposition, but to try to propose some ways in which we can resolve the challenges that we are all facing and the hard decisions that none of us want to make. Some of the hard decisions that we've heard tonight. Just for people's edification, I'm not a member of the Finance Committee, and so I can't make motions in the Finance Committee. We will be voting next week on the budget, and I do not want to be accused of blindsiding anyone by making motions the night the budget needs to be passed. So I figured I'd propose these to you tonight so you have a chance to think about it and so the public also understands. So we have a budget gap that we need to resolve, and we need to make some decisions. I'm proposing some cuts that would then allow us to restore some of the positions that we have heard would really be painful. You know, when it comes to what I think is fair, I don't think it's fair to pay people overtime when we're talking about cutting people's full-time positions. I think that, you know, when you think about that, you're talking about whether or not someone can afford a vacation home versus someone being able to afford their rent or their mortgage. So I would propose that we cut overtime by $289,000 roughly in the police overtime, which is not the entirety of it. And by cutting $289,000 from overtime in the police budget, we would be able to restore the 4 police cadets for the same amount of money. I would propose that we cut the firefighters' overtime by $446,000. And by cutting that overtime, we would be able to restore 4 firefighters for the same amount of money. In our budget, we have a line item called salary reserve, which is $1.2 million. I understand that might be a gesture, but really it's hiding the amount of free cash we have by $1.2 million. I propose that we cut that line item, put it back into free cash. What we learned in finance recently is that we will have to make the transfer regardless of where that money is. It would at least show the community what we really have when it comes to free cash. Additionally, you know, I think that it makes sense to bring some of our landscaping budget back to what we did in 2019. And I'm proposing that we cut some of our landscaping budget by $55,000. That would definitely pay for the language access officer in the city clerk's office that we heard is so important when it comes to our elections. Additionally, I'm proposing that we cut professional services by $120,000 in the legal department. I think that if there needs to be a transfer from free cash for some particular reason, I think we should be doing that. But I think what we've seen is that by having such a large budget to pull from, we are having a lot of litigation that maybe isn't beneficial. Finally, you know, I just think what is fair is fair. It's been proposed that a number of the award accounts for 4th of July be cut by down to 2,500. And so I'm proposing that we cut the mayor's events budget by $7,500, bringing it down to $2,500, the same amount that each ward councilor has for 4th of July. Additionally, I think that we should be cutting professional services of $40,000 from the executive branch, and that would also help restore additional positions. So I have other ideas. Those are just like, I think, low-hanging fruit. If you really wanted to right-size the budget, you could just go back to 2019 numbers across the board. But this was some of the ones I think we could pick out. And the total savings from some of those things that I just recommended would be $1.6 to $1.8 million. That would be my proposal. I'll state it again in finance. And if those motions aren't made in finance, I'll be making them next week on the floor. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor O'Malley. Anyone else wishing to speak against this petition? Oop, hang on one second, the podium seems to have gone off. Okay.
Hi, I'm Christopher Dreyer, resident at 166 Mountain Ave. I'm looking at the budget proposed and also for fiscal year of 2027 and also fiscal year budget of 2026. I just would like to iterate that there's a fair percentage of people that rent in Malden, and raising property taxes it affects property owners disproportionately to people who rent. There's not much revenue generated from raising property tax on a rental property, and I think that in addition to several other line items on the budget, like for example, the city rakes in a whopping $1.2 million for, I believe, parking tickets. It just refreshes my mind back to we're just, if we need to make that many parking tickets, I mean, I just would like to iterate that while that is literally a third of the ARPA funds that we had from previous years, I just think that I'd like to state that the parking garage revenue is down by 20%. And so if we could, as a city, garner the utilization of the parking garage more effectively, and actually not just one parking garage, but I think the city owns several parking garages, if I'm maybe mistaken. And these public garages are underutilized and honestly under revenue generating. And that could be a way to preserve people's cars as well as other things. But one other thing that I was going to mention that was really important is vacant property. While it is a challenge to get people to offload vacant property onto the real estate market, I think heavy liens should be placed on vacant property, because whether it's commercial property or residential property, these owners need to understand that they're part of the community of Malden, and watching the community of Malden and the city of Malden deteriorate based on lack of active ownership and active investment in the community is something that should be financially revenue generating for the city at some point. And I think a vacant property tax should be explored, because it's just, there's a list that isn't comprehensive or complete on the City of Malden's website about vacant property, and I think that's just residential property. the amount of vacant commercial real estate property that is for lease, but just for rent and just waiting for that high-ticket renter is kind of profane, because we as a city need to generate revenue, but I think if more people are focusing on getting renters, not owners, we will be a city forever stuck in a difficult do loop of tax revenue being funneled to only a few people who are owning. And out of respect for time, I'm sorry, I will keep this short. I just wanted to say that I think the ARPA funds and the school budget aren't the major aspects of the budget being misappropriated. I really think, well, I'm not a financier or like an accountant. I think there are just major flaws in the budget that could be adjusted. And I think, and I made this point to a pretty much, I think it was like a year ago or something like that, or 2 years ago. But I think the city of Malden should do like budget cuts on and freezes on any salary above 100,000. That goes across the board to any city employee. I think making over $100,000 as one individual for 1 year is excessive. From a city perspective, enriching oneself on the from the city coffers of the city's hardworking residents, where it's just disturbing, because I think people need to be seen as public servants, and that is the true nature of what it means to be of public service and public administration. It's not to become like affluent millionaires off the public dollar. And that's basically my time, and I'm sorry I was so jumping on different topics, but I think there should be a budget freeze across the board for every single line item, and no one should take salary from like going forward if like there's such a disgraceful amount of budget impasses. It's just it's something that Malden could right itself within its own resources, and it's kind of embarrassing. That's all I'm saying. I think we need to get the budget in order. That's all. Thanks.
Thank you.
Hi, good evening. My name is Karen Colon Hayes. I live at 105 Wyoming Avenue. I want to thank Councillor O'Malley. You're always coming up with some great thoughts to come here. We are residents also. So I did do some work with Councillor O'Malley, and I want to say that there will be more ideas that we'll either present in finance, if not on a paper. And one of my top priorities was, of course, the language access coordinator. So hopefully some of these cuts that we will make, we'll be able to get that position back, because of what everyone else just said here tonight. It's extremely important, especially in our city. So thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition to the petition this evening? I know we do have some emails to read before I close the hearing.
Yes, we do.
Okay, I think we can move into the emails then.
Okay. Dear City Council, my name is Thomas, and I live in Malden at Diane's View. I am also a GMAC youth leader. I wanted to ask why it is necessary for you to cut the entire language access position. You gave very little notice. Next one says, my name is Alex, and I live on Westcott Street. As a GMAC youth leader, I am against the cutting of the language access coordinator position. Language access as a whole is significantly important to all people throughout their lives and community. Without language, we would not be able to communicate properly with a lot of people we meet and converse with every day. More access to language leads to newly discovered connections and communications, which can lead to influential or significant changes that benefit our society. Altogether, having more language access helps us as a community unite. As someone fortunate enough to have language access to the point where I've made so many connections and friends, it has positively impacted my life and relationships, and I could not be more grateful. As for questions, do you think cutting positions rather than earning the money elsewhere is beneficial and efficient? Why? To the City Council. My name is Cyreman, and I live on Hancock Street. I am also a GMAC youth leader, and I am against the cutting of the language access coordinator position. Malden is a very diverse city, and if positions like this are cut, it would put a huge portion of this city in a really rough situation. It will decrease participation in public events because many people who cannot yet speak English well may not be informed about events. To the City Council, my name is Andy and I live on Stadium Road. I am also GMAC youth leader, and I am against the cutting of the language access coordinator position. Language access allows all cultures and races to partake in City Council affairs, and isn't this nation built on freedom and equality? Well, then language is one of, if not the most important in connecting communities and bringing equality. My name is Satvinder and I live on Ferry Street. I am also a GMAC youth leader. As GMAC, I am against the cutting of the language access coordinator position. I wish to feel empowered by having my voice heard. It is especially important to have an opportunity for people to actually participate in the community. Hello, City Council. My name is Terrence and I live on Main Street. I am a GMAC youth leader, and as a youth leader, I am against the cutting of the language access coordinator position. I am wondering why the position was cut and what will happen to those who have been cut. Also, what will happen to the language access position since it is important to our community and how diverse the Malden community is. Getting rid of it will only handicap those who are in need of language access, removing lots of participation from community members. To the City Council, my name is Cheryl. I live on Coleman Street. I am also a GMAC youth leader. As a GMAC youth leader, I am against the cutting of the language access coordinator position. Language access is very important, and it allows many who are not fluent in English to be able to complete many important documents and also express themselves. Learning a new language is very difficult and takes a lot of time. This position should not be cut or taken in such a light way. Why did the entire position have to be cut? It doesn't make sense to me since Malden has such big diversity in its families and benefits greatly from this. I heard that this job will be transferred and added onto another position, but this doesn't seem to be very efficient as it is not an easy job. Will there be support for this person or a new group? Last year, GMAC went to see and learned about this position as we were working towards a new language at Malden High School. My family also, personally, has had trouble with some documents or even just speaking about things that don't come up in daily life. Translating for me is not easy, or for my siblings, even though my mom is able to understand, write, read, and talk with good proficiency. Translating some words is not easy, so I can understand how many people who may not understand English very well will find it even more difficult. I propose finding a new grant for the language access coordinator position. My name is Henry. I live on Alden Street. I'm also GMAC youth leader. As a youth leader, I am against the cutting of the language access coordinator position. This position is very important to us because our community is very diverse. We all came from different backgrounds. Some of them know English, but not all, so we should not leave those people who do not know out. We should help them and encourage them to be part of Malden. It is very important to me because I have to do translation for my parents and grandparents. By doing that, it helps them out a lot, but some other people don't have that privilege, and that is why we need this position to help those people. We should find funding for this important position. Question: why are we cutting positions just to make other people's lives harder? To the City Council, my name is Ryan, and I live on Coleman Street in Malden. I am also GMAC youth leader. As a GMAC youth leader, I am strongly against the cutting of the language access coordinator. Malden prides itself on being among the top 5 most diverse cities in the state, with Malden High School ranking as the #1 most diverse public high school. Every day, the streets of the city are filled with dozens of families coming from various backgrounds, cultures, and lifestyles. The lack of a language access coordinator would not only disrupt the voices of Malden residents, but also shake the foundations of the city as a whole. Throughout my experiences with volunteering or hosting community events, I have witnessed dozens of individuals lost, struggling to grasp and understand the sheer amount of English words being thrown at them. Language barriers are some of the strongest walls dividing humankind, which is why solutions that overcome these obstacles should be encouraged, not weakened. Therefore, I hope everyone considers the consequences of making this decision. Thank you. And then we have one more. To the honorable members of the City Council, the Massachusetts Inspector General's June 2026 final report on sheriff budgets and expenditures identifies fiscal principles directly applicable to Malden's proposed FY27 budget. I respectfully submit the following questions as they apply to the proposed FY27 budget. 1. The OIG report warns that budgets lacking itemized purpose-specific line items enabled uncontrolled spending and mission creep. Does the FY27 proposed budget separate mandatory obligations such as debt service and collective bargaining costs from discretionary expenditures to allow the council to evaluate each on its merits? 2, the report identifies use of reserves to close structural deficits as unsustainable. The mayor's transmittal letter proposes drawing $5.2 million from reserves. What is the projected reserve balance after this draw, and what is the plan if the structured deficit persists into FY28? 3, the OIG found that eliminating discretionary spending while protecting mandated services is essential. Has the council received a clear breakdown distinguishing which of the proposed cuts affect legally mandated services versus purely discretionary ones? 4, the report emphasizes that clarity of purpose and clarity of funding ceilings are essential controls. Are the proposed zero COLA wage freezes for open union contracts reflected with sufficiency contingency funding in the event those contracts are ultimately settled above zero? 5, the OIG stresses the fiscal decisions conducted outside normal oversight systems create accountability failures. Are all proposed grant-funded position shifts, such as in engineering and general government, backed by executed grant agreements, or are those revenues offset speculative? Thank you for the opportunity to comment. Brian DeLacy, 1 Earl Street. And that is all we have for comments.
Okay, thank you very much. So at this time, I am going to declare the public hearing portion of our agenda closed. Do we have any questions or comments from the council before we move on to our next agenda item? And I am going to, before we go into questions, I do just want to remind folks that the council, again, is not going to be voting on the budget tonight. We do have our finance subcommittee that's going to continue discussing this tonight and next week, and our full council will be coming back here 1 week from tonight to vote on the budget. I do want to thank everybody who joined us tonight. I also want to thank our interpreters. This was a long discussion, and I know that's a long time to be interpreting, so thank you. And I'm sorry that there were some technical difficulties, but I appreciate you bearing with us. Please, again, come and speak to me if there's anything you have questions about that I can help you with afterwards. And with that, I will go to questions from the council, questions or comments from the council. Councilor McDonald?
Yeah, thank you so much. I just want to say, heard loud and clear, that there is significant community concern around the access to language translation and interpretation. I want to note that came up also in the council's committee conversations, so I'm sure we'll be talking about that very soon. But I do just wanted to say to Councilor O'Malley and others, regardless of whether you are a member of the Finance Committee, anyone can attend, any of our councilors can attend the Finance Committee and raise your suggestions there. So I just want to be clear that we will, it will be an opportunity to share all the things that you may suggest. I don't know that all of us are going to take the time right now to get into as much detail, but I appreciate the points that you shared there. So just thanks again to the many folks who are here attending and participating in this process.
Yes, thank you very much. Okay, with that, I will move on to our next and I think final agenda item for this evening.
A representative from the Solicitor's Office will follow up on paper 277-26 with an update to the Council on the investigation into the open meeting law complaint filed by Bruce Friedman of 8 Marvin Street on May 13th, 2026 against the Council related to the executive session held on May 12th, 2026.
Okay, and I couldn't even see you over there. Our Assistant City Solicitor, Attorney Sami, is with us. If you can please join us at the podium. Thank you for hanging in for this long evening.
So this is an open meeting law complaint submitted by Bruce Friedman regarding an executive session of the City Council that took place on May 12th, 2026. And basically two things that the complaint states. It says that the topics listed were not sufficiently specific and that the purpose of the session was improper. So one of our other assistant city solicitors has drafted a response which addresses both of those complaints. With respect to the first complaint about the notice not being sufficiently specific, Prasanna Rajasekaran in our office pointed out that the notice was sufficiently specific under the open meeting law guidelines and determinations of the Attorney General because it identified the specific litigation that was going to be discussed and it identified it by name. And with respect to the purpose of the session not being proper, the complaint seems to say that because the case was fully adjudicated, the exemption does not apply. I don't think that's actually right at all because the case technically was not fully adjudicated. There were hearings still being conducted, and even after the hearings are being conducted, even after a decision is made, there could be an appeal. So really, it's not fully adjudicated. So I think that's one way in which the complaint just got it wrong. And the other thing that the complaint says is that the something about there was no detrimental effect on the litigation position of the city. So the open meeting law complaint, and again, the response addresses this. There doesn't have to be a detrimental effect. The law says there may be a detrimental effect. So I'm happy to address any other questions. I don't know if you guys have read the response, but I'm just sort of summarizing what the response from our office says on behalf of the City Council.
Okay, thank you. Do folks have any questions? Okay, seeing none, I'd be looking for a motion to approve allowing the legal department to submit to the complainant and the Attorney General's office. Okay, motion by Councilor Luong, seconded by Councilor Cologne Hayes. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Present Councilor O'Malley.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Next order of business?
That is your docket.
The docket is clear. Do we have a motion to adjourn? That everybody wants to adjourn, okay. I'll go with Councilor Sika, seconded by Councilor Crowe. All in favor? Aye. We are adjourned at 8:53. Thank you, everyone.
We're going to reconvene in 5 minutes in room 105 for the Finance Committee meeting and back on Teams.